All right, so this week we're learning about perimeter, and today we're going to learn about perimeter of irregular shapes. So what does that mean? The perimeter is the total distance around a shape. So here's a square, and you would measure just the distance around the square. Not the stuff inside, not the stuff outside, just the edges of the square. So today we're not going to talk about squares though. We're going to talk about irregular shapes. That means that an irregular shape is a shape that none of the sides are the same. So to find the perimeter of an irregular shape where none of the sides are the same, all you have to do is just add up the sides together. Now, don't forget to pause the video, make sure all of this is written down before you move on. All right, so let's talk about adding. To find the perimeter of an irregular shape, you add all the sides together. So no matter how many sides there are, if none of them are the same, you just add them up. So how do you write that down? You put P for perimeter, and then you list all the sides. So one side of the triangle is 13, the other side is 4.9, and the last side is 15.3. Something to remember, we're going to do some outside calculations this week. We're going back to that. And what you're going to need to do, don't forget, when you're adding or subtracting, you need to line up the decimals. So decimal, decimal, this one doesn't have one. I'm going to have to give it a decimal. So I've got 13 decimal, 4.9, and 15.3. So I'll put a 0 up with the 13, and that way all the place values are lined up together. So 0 plus 9 is 9, 9 plus 3 is 12, carry your 1. Put your decimal in your answer. 3 plus 4 is 7, 7 plus 5 is 12, plus the 1 that you carried is 13, carry your 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus the 1 that you carried is 3. So 33.2, the perimeter equals 33.2, and when you're writing your final answer, don't forget to include the unit of measurement, in this case, centimeters. 33.2 centimeters. So that's all you're working on today, perimeter of irregular shapes. You're going to add the sides together. So in your folder, turn to page 1, and let's do page 1 together. We're going to do page 1, number 5, and number 11, because they work differently. So number 5 is a triangle. There's 3 sides. So P equals 10 plus 10 plus 5.2. So remember, we're going to add, we need to line up the decimals. Does this one have a decimal? No, so I have to give it 1. Does this one have a decimal? No, I have to give it 1. Now, in my outside calculations, I'm going to do all the lining up, right? So I've got decimal, 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 adding, decimal in my answer. So this is an easy way to make sure that you're lining up the decimals. Build your numbers around the decimals. So the first one is 10, second one is 10, last one is 5, and then a 2 on the other side of the decimal. So don't forget, I'll just need to fill in those blanks sometimes when you're adding decimals in there. So 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the perimeter of my triangle on page 1, number 5, is 25.2. So I put P equals 25.2, and the unit of measurement, centimeters. Now, all of these questions all week, you're going to need to answer in your notebook. There's no way that any of those pages in your folder have enough room for you to write down P equals and your answer and do your outside calculation. So that means you've got to do all the pages in your notebook where you've got lots of room to do it. All right, take a look at number 11. Number 11, we have to do something a little bit different. Number 11 tells us already what the perimeter is, and we have to work backwards to figure out what the missing side is instead. So let's talk a little bit about how that looks. Normally, like we just did with number 5, you write P equals, but I'm not going to write P equals today because I already know what the P is. The perimeter is 12.2. So instead I'm going to write 12.2 equals, because I already know how much the perimeter is. We've got our missing angle x, our missing side, plus 3.4 plus 4.1. So how am I going to solve this? How am I going to figure it out? It is almost exactly like what we did last week when you were looking for those missing angles. Add the ones that you know, and then minus from the total. So that means 2 outside calculations. We're going to have to add and then minus. So the first thing I want to do is add the ones that I know. 3.4 and 4.1. Add them up together. 4 plus 1 is 5. 3 plus 4 is 7. So I can go back, kind of like when I'm doing bed maths. It's a little bit like that. So I still have 12.2 equals something, x, plus 7.5 now because I added the ones that I know. Now what I need to do is take 7.5 away from the total perimeter, 12.2, and then I'll find x. I'll find my missing angle. So you take your 12.2 and you minus 7.5. I take the ones that I know away from the total to find the missing one. It's almost exactly like what we were doing last week with those angle relationships, finding missing angles. Just kind of work backwards. So 2 minus 5, can I do that? No, I have to borrow. So that turns to a 1, that turns to 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. 1 minus 7, I can't do that either. Borrow. 11 minus 7 is 4. So now I know that 4.7 equals x. The missing side is 4.7. So I added the sides that I knew, and then I minused them from the total perimeter to find the answer. So the rest of that page, so 11, 12, 13, and 14, they look exactly like this, all the way to 14. When you're done all the way to 14, then you're going to keep going. So today, you're working with just adding and subtracting. You're counting the sides, adding up the sides, or in the case of number 11 to 14, you're adding and then you're subtracting because you're trying to find the missing side. So today we've got page 2, all of page 2, page 4, number 7 to 14, and page 5, 8 to 13, and then 16, 17. You're probably not going to get done all the way to page 5 today. That's okay. Just work as hard as you can for all of math, right? It goes all the way to 10:30. So you should be doing math all the way to 10:30. Remember to ask for help if you need it. And good luck.